Hello, my name is Emmeline Tyler. I'm an avid reader and I have once been a bit of an avid self-help book reader. So today's video is about a new genre of self-help books that I've discovered that are actually helpful and take into account the whole context instead of just blaming individuals for their own problems. So if you want to learn more about how self-help is problematic, I would probably recommend listening to a few episodes of my favourite podcast, If Books Could Kill. They talk about what they call airport books, which is non-fiction bestsellers that you're likely to find at the airport. And they're not all self-help books, but a lot of them are. And basically the podcast is about how they spread popular ideas, or like they're popular books, but they're used to spread reactionary and right-wing ideology, so they're actually quite dangerous. People like me who are neurodivergent are often very susceptible to the self-help genre because we spend our whole life being told, you're so smart, so why can't you get it together? Just to summarize. And that's quite damaging. And so a lot of neurodivergent people turn to self-help to be like, yes, what is wrong with me? Why can't I finish projects even though I start a dozen a week or a day? So these books, just going to talk about a couple. Probably, I can't remember which one I read first, but I read this book around the same time as I also read Unmasking for Life by Devon Price. And both of them just like blew my mind as to what the self-help genre can actually be. So this book, Half-Assed Human by Leena Norms, How to Live Better Without Burning Out, in like maybe chapter 1, she starts out by talking about the climate crisis, which seems unexpected in a self-help book unless you've been following her channel, because she's actually a YouTuber and that is definitely a special interest of hers. But the way she talks about it is the floor's lava. Like everyone talks about the environment like it's out there, but it's literally the earth that we're on, like it's our actual where we are. And she talks about the game that some people play when they're kids called the floor's lava, where you try and not stand on the ground, but it's like you can't do it forever. So everything she talks about is in the context of the floor's lava, i.e. the climate crisis. The book itself is about not trying so hard and not trying to do your best at everything. And it's something that we say to kids, just do your best, just do your best, just do your best. But it's like, no, actually that's not good advice, because you can't do your best at everything. You have to decide what you are going to half-ass. And sometimes half-assing something makes it possible for you to do it at all, rather than procrastinating doing anything on it because you can't put your whole ass into it. Anyway, she talks about ass a lot. Just towards the start, if you find, like I found her writing style very irritating at the start of the book, especially because she kept using the word ass. Not that I have a problem with swearing or anything like that, but it was just irritating. But I got into it. I read the whole book and it was really helpful. I also didn't like the spacing. So you see the paragraphs have all these spaces between them. I'm like, why? But definitely worth reading. So she's got different topics of things to half-ass. Half-ass manifesto, half-ass choices, half-ass style, as in clothes, half-ass career, half-ass vegan. That encouraged me to go half-ass vegan, which is great. Half-ass home. That one was really interesting. So she talks about indoor plants and home decor and being obsessed with this. And she's like, but what do you really want when you're buying indoor plants? Like, do you want to be in nature more? Because maybe you can work to make like just go bushwalking more and also work to make the world a better place, a better home for everyone, this feeling of home. A lot of traditional self-help ignores the wider context, blames the individual, but then also is very self-involved in terms of you've got to fix your own problem and it doesn't try to help you work out how to deal with systemic problems because it ignores that they exist. And so I think this new genre of self-help is like acknowledging the systemic problems, finding what agency you have in them, because I think that is a problem when we on the left think too much about, oh, well, it's not my fault because it's a systemic problem. And that can encourage a victim mentality when we forget to think, well, what is my own agency in this situation? So then finding that agency, like in the context that we're in, what's my agency? And then not just using that agency to help myself, but to contribute to solving the problems that need solving. So yes, the other book that I read around the same time, as I said, was Unmasking for Life by Devon Price, which came after his book Unmasking Autism, which I never got around to reading, and I probably won't because I think I probably already know most of the stuff. But Unmasking for Life is like the practical application of unmasking autism. So in case you don't know, unmasking is a term used in the autism community and maybe more broadly neurodivergent, I don't know. And it's about, so masking is something that neurodivergent people often do, which is like, I mean, everyone does it to an extent, but just putting on a mask, putting on a persona to fit in and trying to suppress any weirdness that might try and get out. So like the easiest example that anyone could relate to is what Devon Price calls your work persona. So most people aren't like fully authentic at work. It's probably a spectrum of how much of a persona they put on. I mean, no one farts at work, right? So everyone's masking socially to some degree. That's masking. Unmasking is when you come to see who you are authentically and try and be that person as much as possible instead of constantly pretending to be someone else. And it really helps you connect with yourself and helps you connect with other people. So Unmasking for Life, I haven't got it with me, sorry, because I returned it to the library. It has several areas, so work, friendship, family, very practical applications of ways that you can survive and thrive in the world as an autistic person instead of as a person pretending not to be autistic. And it's relevant to not just autistic people. I think lots of people would like it. I love how practical it is. So in the chapter on work, more than half of it is dedicated to not work. So he's assuming most autistic people cannot hold down a full-time job. So he has alternatives, how to keep up, like how to get disability pension, what things you might want to consider, how to be a stay-at-home parent, things you might want to consider with that. Like there's pluses and minuses to all kinds of ways of surviving financially, and he doesn't privilege work above anything else. Whereas traditional self-help would be like, you have to have a job and this is how you get it. It just ignores reality, basically, or reality for autistic people. And as I say, a lot of stuff that applies, if we can be inclusive to autistic people, it makes us inclusive for everyone. Right, and then this is another Devon Price book, Unlearning Shame. This one came before Unmasking for Life, but you know, I can read books out of publishing order. So this book is about systemic shame. So it's about how America is, and probably more generally traditionally Christian nations, are just soaked in shame, shame-based functioning societies, but then particular groups within that society have systemic shame put on them, so feel shameful for just being who they are. So they'll be like people of colour, autistic people, disabled people, mentally ill people, trans people, and how rejecting self-blame culture gives us real power. This is relevant to what I was saying about traditional self-help books. No matter a person's identity or position in society, it's likely they have been taught by systemic shame to assume all of society's problems have been caused by individuals behaving badly, and that as a consequence, the solution is to just exercise more willpower, leverage more shame, and push themselves and others to make better decisions. But as the next chapter of the book will illustrate, the data is unequivocal. Unequivocable. Shame does not work. So I'm making this video because if you're the kind of person who has been drawn to self-help books like I have, or is someone who likes to improve themselves on a self-improvement journey, or just like, you know, want to be a better person, or as someone said to me recently, a not being an asshole journey, I would highly recommend this genre of self-help books. So any books by Devon Price, he's written like maybe 4 or 5 now. This book by Leena Norms, and I don't know if any others exist in this genre. She refers to her book as like the ultimate self-help book because it's the anti-self-help book. So it's like the only one you need, which is basically stop trying so hard. Because the thing about self-help books is, as a recent article I read states, which I can link in the description, you just read more and more and it doesn't actually change your life, because reading is a kind of doing, but not the kind of doing that actually gets stuff done like on a practical level. If I come up with more, if I think of more books or I come across more, I'll add them to description. But for now, thanks for watching. Bye.